Tom Petty passed away a couple of days ago of a heart attack. The news was reported through CBS and Rolling Stone prematurely, and at first it came off like fake news, but he was on life support that was cut due to an apparent no resuscitation clause, and he passed away last night. But, he's gone. And, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, it was hard to get away from their music, during the 80s and the 90s, hearing songs like Don't Do Me Like That, Damn the Torpedoes, that type of thing. I Won't Back Down, Waiting Is the Hardest Part. These were, kind of part of the Heartland rock scene with John Mellencamp and Bruce Springsteen. And, to me, the Heartbreakers always had much more of a pop rock flavor because they were not actually derived from the Heartland. Tom Petty was born in Gainesville, Florida, and he initially had a group called Mudcrutch, and he broke up with them to start the Heartbreakers, but he reorganized Mudcrutch around 2007, and they had their second album about a year ago. You can check that out if you aren't that familiar with Tom Petty's overall career. He's had solo albums, of course, Free Fall and things like that. But the only article of vinyl I actually have by Tom Petty is his first album with the Heartbreakers. I found it at a store called Retro Swagger in downtown Bangor. It's not in perfect shape. It's slightly warped, but not in a way that affects play too much. But I'd still like to find a way to kind of put it in my collection upright in such a way where I can compress it and play it in the future. Obviously, since Tom Petty has passed away, there's a lot of charlatanism out there, people jacking up the prices on the vinyl because he's dead, and I don't like that. That's exploitation to me. And, this album, I'm actually going to review it today because I've listened to it a couple times, and it's one of the Tom Petty albums I've never actually given much credence to. But first of all, I'm going to take this out because it's on the MCA Shelter label. It's got that smiling half moon on it. But I'll tell you something about this album right away. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers definitely had a formula in their music that they liked. And they variated it from time to time, but they had a formula. And this pretty much breaks down that formula. It starts out with Rockin' Around With You, Hometown Blues, anything that's rock and roll, which I believe was a single taken out for it, The Wild One Forever, Stranger Than the Night, Fool Again, I Don't Like It, Mystery Man. Those basically help to kind of calcify the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers sound. And there's the band right there. There's Tom, Mike Campbell, Stan Lynch, Ron Blair, Brian, I don't know the name of these band members too well, so I'm just reading them off the back. The back is chipped off. It's not in the best shape. But anyway, as far as the music on this album, there's actually some surprising deviations from that formula. One of them is a song I knew well. I think it's on their greatest hits, called Breakdown. It actually has a great Fender Rose part, a nice kind of bluesy, almost jazzy swing. I could sort of see an earlier Steely Dan going there for a song like that, but it's a lot rawer, of course. But it's got that nice flavor to it, that nice bluesy, slightly swingy, soulful flavor, which is very enjoyable. Luna is a song that's actually got a lot of electric piano flourishes, almost somewhat psychedelic. A similar kind of song to Breakdown, but a little bit lower in tempo. American Girl has got a nice upbeat pop rock swing to it, but then in the middle, the rhythm guitar and the bass get seriously funky on it. And I mean seriously funky. So, there actually is some strong variety on this album. I know that a lot of people think of Tom Petty similar to how I do. I was talking to the owner of Dr. Records earlier today, and he was talking about Tom Petty with me, and we both talked about the formula that he had. But that's why a lot of people love his music. You know, it's very consistent. You know, he adapted it in the 80s to include elements of synthesizers and so on, but he basically always kept that core sound. So when changes happened in music, you know, Tom Petty was a comfortable place for those who didn't really want to move beyond that safe position. But the fact of the matter is, he did it really, really well, and I'm gonna kind of miss having him around. You know, in a way, his music was that comfortable place for people, even though I don't like thinking about this, who really didn't want to see rock evolve. But Tom Petty as a person was a totally different matter. He was a huge advocate for artists' rights and freedom, and especially not price gouging at concerts. He did an album called The Last DJ, which is very prophetic in the wake of Clear Channel, what's been happening with radio in general for the past 20, 25 years. So, you know, Tom Petty has been an advocate for a lot of important things in music that I personally appreciate. And, you know, even though he had a signature sound that he didn't deviate too much from, I hate to keep beating that over the head, you know, I'll miss his presence, and especially his advocacy for artists. And, you know, I'm hoping that other artists of many different types, you know, take on that stance in the future. So this is a great album. You know, if you want to buy it on vinyl, don't go pick it up now. You know, people out there are overcharging for it. Like I said, you know, just, you know, wait for a little while, get it on CD if you can, listen to the songs on YouTube or whatever. But I got this before he died. Frankly, this was not in the best shape, and it was literally only $1. Literally only $1. I paid $1 for this. So, you know, if you're lucky enough to find that, cool. But, you know, don't get price gouged. Don't get ripped off. Wait a little bit. Let the smoke clear off Tom Petty's passing. But pick up this album if you can, if you're a vinyl lover, once it kind of goes down. Try to find a better shape one than I have. But, you know, it's a worthwhile album to hear. You know, it's not his best. It's not Damn the Torpedoes or anything like that. But it's definitely a good debut. And it shows a band with a lot of promise. And that they're moving in the direction that we all know. And their sound is really well calcified at this point. So anyway, R.I.P. Tom Petty. Enjoy your music and appreciate all of the musical icons that have made the American popular tapestry, from jazz to pop, blues, whatever, soul, funk, what it is today. Don't take them for granted. Peace.